The key is to surround yourself only with individuals who uplift you, whose presence brings out your best. Identifying false relationships can be challenging, much like distinguishing a mirage from an oasis in the vast desert of human interaction. In a world filled with meetings and mismatches, where masks of cordiality and self-interest are skillfully worn, discerning who genuinely cares for us becomes an art that demands intuition and a sharp eye. Sometimes, we may overly believe in the goodness and goodwill of others, only to realize that we're being used. Similar to a skilled gardener who distinguishes between nourishing plants and those that sap the soil of nutrients, we must learn to identify true allies in our lives. Additionally, recognizing emotional parasites is crucial. In this content, we will discuss subtle signs and less obvious patterns that unveil the hidden intentions behind forced smiles and empty promises. If you're here, it's because you're interested in personal development. Throughout this video, we will delve into the wisdom of deciphering these human enigmas, illuminating the path to more authentic and rewarding relationships. Before we begin, I urge you to watch this video until the end, as all the content is important. Stay strong, stay focused, and don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Number 1 in identifying individuals who may seek to use others is the failure to fulfill promises. This act of making and breaking promises can be compared to a theatrical performance, where words play the role of actors and actions are the neglected script. Individuals who exhibit this behavior have mastered the art of verbal persuasion, painting vivid pictures of commitment and support. However, their words often lack the substance of action. They create expectations with the flourish of a painter, but when the time comes to turn these painted dreams into reality, they falter, revealing the emptiness of their assurances. In such relationships, a pattern emerges. When their support is most needed, when their promise is due for delivery, these individuals often vanish, leaving a void filled with disappointment and disillusionment. This absence in times of need is not just a breach of trust. It is a clear indicator of their true motivations. Their promises become tools for manipulation, designed to extract value, trust, or support with no intention of reciprocation. Failure to fulfill promises, therefore, becomes a litmus test. It distinguishes between those who value relationships as a two-way street of mutual respect and support, and those who see relationships merely as avenues for personal gain. For those left in the lurch, the experience often brings a painful but valuable lesson. Not all promises are built on the foundation of honesty and integrity. Recognizing this pattern allows one to navigate the complex terrain of human relationships with a more discerning eye, safeguarding their trust and emotional investment. It serves as a critical behavior to observe in understanding and identifying individuals who may seek to use others. This behavior speaks louder than the most eloquent of words, revealing a person's true character and intention. Number 2 on the list is the use of diminishing or disdainful comments. Individuals who habitually exploit others for personal gain are skilled at deploying diminutive remarks as a tool for erosion, gradually wearing down self-esteem, confidence, and the sense of self-worth in their targets. These comments, sometimes disguised as humor or casual banter, are, in reality, barbed hooks designed to pull down rather than uplift. They may trivialize your successes, scoff at your aspirations, or appear disinterested and unresponsive to your struggles and challenges. This behavior resembles subtle psychological warfare, systematically undervaluing your achievements and aspirations. To create an imbalance in the relationship, it's a calculated move to ensure that you remain in a position of self-doubt and diminished self-esteem, making you more susceptible to manipulation and control. In their eyes, your diminished self-worth elevates their status, solidifying their position of dominance in the relationship. Moreover, such disdainful remarks are often a reflection of their own insecurities and feelings of inadequacy. By belittling others, they attempt to mask their vulnerabilities and project a facade of superiority. This behavior serves as a telltale sign of their inability to engage in healthy, supportive, and reciprocal relationships. Recognizing and understanding this pattern is crucial. It allows you to see through the veil of superficial charm that such individuals often wear and to comprehend the underlying toxic dynamics of the relationship. It serves as a warning to either address the behavior with the individual directly, setting clear boundaries, or to distance oneself from such a toxic environment. Number 3 on the list is unilateral benefit, which can manifest in various facets of a relationship, whether it's financial, emotional, or practical. Financially, the user may frequently borrow money or resources, with promises of repayment or reciprocity that never materialize. Emotionally, they might lean heavily on the other for support, validation, and attention, offering little to nothing in return. Practically, they could habitually seek favors, assistance, or time, yet be conspicuously absent or too busy when their counterpart needs help. This one-sidedness is comparable to a parasitic relationship in nature, where one organism benefits at the expense of the other. The user, like a parasite, draws nourishment through emotional, financial, or practical support without contributing equally or adequately to the well-being of their host. Over time, this lack of reciprocity can deplete the giver's resources, be they emotional, financial, or temporal, leaving them drained and unfulfilled. The motives behind unilateral benefit are often rooted in deep-seated self-centeredness and a lack of empathy. The user views relationships through a transactional lens, assessing interactions based on what they stand to gain rather than what they can contribute. This approach to relationships is fundamentally flawed, as it overlooks the inherent value of mutual respect, support, and give and take. Identifying this pattern requires a discerning eye. It involves recognizing the persistent lack of reciprocity and the feeling of being perpetually shortchanged in the relationship. It calls for an honest assessment of whether the interactions leave you feeling valued and respected or used and undervalued. Number 4 on the list is a disregard for your needs or feelings. This pattern of behavior involves consistently ignoring or devaluing one's emotional landscape. It's comparable to tending a garden where only one flower is allowed to bloom, while the others are neglected. In such interactions, the user's needs and desires take precedence, sidelining or dismissing yours. Their actions and words become shears, trimming away at your emotional well-being, leaving you feeling undervalued and invisible in the relationship. This disregard can manifest in various forms. It might be evident in the way they routinely overlook your emotional needs, failing to provide support or understanding when you are vulnerable or in need. It could be seen in their indifference to your opinions and choices, drowning out your voice with their dominating narrative. They may neglect to acknowledge your achievements, or, worse, minimize your struggles, making light of the issues that weigh heavily on you. Such behavior is not merely insensitive. It's a calculated neglect, a tool used to maintain an upper hand in the relationship. By invalidating your feelings and needs, the user creates an environment where your self-worth is undermined, making you more susceptible to their influence and control. It is a form of emotional manipulation, subtly executed but with significant impact. This dynamic is particularly damaging because it strikes at the very core of one's emotional well-being. Need to be heard, understood, and valued. Recognizing the signs of emotional neglect is essential to navigate relationships where your emotional well-being is at risk. Number 5 is emotional manipulation. It often starts insidiously, with the manipulator presenting themselves as caring and attentive. However, this facade quickly morphs into a mechanism for inducing feelings of anxiety, inadequacy, or guilt in their target. Emotional manipulators become adept at pushing emotional buttons, praising to elevate you when it suits their purpose, and then sharply criticizing or undermining you to create self-doubt and dependency. Consider the analogy of a gardener and a delicate plant. A caring gardener nurtures the plant, providing just the right amount of water and sunlight. In contrast, the emotional manipulator, like a negligent gardener, alternates between overwatering and leaving the plant to wither in drought. They use emotional extremes to destabilize, creating an environment where the target becomes emotionally dependent, constantly seeking the manipulator's approval and validation to regain that initial sense of warmth. Emotional manipulation often targets the very core of one's emotional well-being. Manipulators may trivialize accomplishments or magnify failures to keep the target in a perpetual state of self-doubt. They might twist situations to make the target feel guilty for normal actions, shifting the blame to ensure the target is always the one apologizing. In relationships where emotional manipulation is at play, the balance of power is always skewed, with the manipulator holding the reins, deciding when to offer affection and when to withdraw it, keeping their target off balance. This dynamic is not about mutual growth or support. It's about feeding the manipulator's needs at the expense of the other's emotional health. Identifying emotional manipulation requires a keen awareness of these dynamics and introspection to understand how these interactions affect one's sense of self and emotional well-being. Number 6 on the list is a lack of genuine support. Picture a tree in a vast forest. Ideally, it is supported by the surrounding trees and undergrowth, receiving nutrients, shelter, and the companionship of a thriving ecosystem. Now, imagine a tree standing alone in a barren landscape with no other flora to offer support or protection. This is akin to being in a relationship with someone who lacks genuine interest in your well-being. In such relationships, your goals, projects, and challenges are met with apathy or token gestures of support. This person may nod along to your plans, offer a half-hearted good luck, or even verbalize support, but their actions, or lack thereof, speak louder. When it comes to tangible assistance, meaningful advice, or even a listening ear during tough times, their presence is conspicuously absent. Their help, if offered, tends to be superficial, more a matter of form than substance, and often evaporates when needed most. The reason behind this lack of genuine support is rooted in their focus on self-interest. Your successes or failures, challenges or interests, are of interest to them only insofar as they affect them or their goals. They view relationships through a transactional lens, where emotional investment is calculated based on potential personal returns. This attitude creates an imbalance where one party continuously gives effort, care, or resource while the other takes, often leaving the giver feeling undervalued and unseen. Recognizing this lack of genuine support is crucial in understanding the nature of your relationship with such an individual. It calls for an honest assessment of the reciprocity in your interactions. Identifying and addressing this lack of support is key to ensuring that you invest your time and energy in relationships that are nurturing, reciprocal, and genuinely supportive. Number 7 on the list is constant competition. Imagine a game of chess where every move is calculated, not just to advance one's position, but also to systematically undermine the opponent. In a similar vein, a person who just wants to use you will often treat your relationship as a strategic game. Each of your achievements, decisions, or even challenges becomes an opportunity for them to assert superiority. Whether it's overshadowing your professional successes, one-upping your personal accomplishments, or subtly undermining your decisions, their actions are driven by the need to stay ahead in the self-imposed competition. This constant competition manifests in various ways. In a professional setting, they might attempt to outshine you in meetings or take credit for your ideas. In personal relationships, they could downplay your experiences or achievements, often juxtaposing their own to appear more significant. Even in casual conversations, there's a palpable undercurrent of them, trying to prove themselves better, smarter, or more successful. The root of this behavior lies in deep-seated insecurity and a skewed perception of self-worth, where their value is measured not by their own merit, but by being superior to others. This perspective turns every interaction into a zero-sum game, where for them to win, someone else, in this case, you must lose. It's a mindset where mutual growth is overshadowed by the desire to outdo and overshadow. Engaging with someone who exhibits constant competition can be emotionally exhausting. It creates an environment of perpetual tension, where genuine collaboration or support is replaced by rivalry. Your successes are not celebrated but viewed as challenges to their dominance. And your struggles are not met with empathy, but seen as opportunities for them to gain an upper hand. Identifying and understanding this pattern is crucial. It helps in setting boundaries and recalibrating the relationship, if possible, to a more healthy and collaborative dynamic. It involves recognizing that the foundation of any constructive relationship is mutual respect and support, not a relentless race for superiority. Number 8 on the list is the absence in critical moments. This pattern of behavior is reminiscent of a tree that provides shade only when the sun is gentle, but vanishes when the storm clouds gather. In good times, when everything is smooth sailing, individuals exhibiting this behavior are there, basking in the shared light and possibly reaping the benefits of the relationship. However, when the tides turn, when challenges arise, and when support is most needed, their presence dwindles, leaving you to weather the storm alone. Such individuals treat relationships as a convenience, a means to an end where their involvement is weighed on a scale of personal benefit. Their support is superficial, extended only when it aligns with their interests or when there is something to gain. In critical moments, be it a personal crisis, a professional setback, or emotional turmoil, their absence is palpable. It's during these times when genuine support and empathy are most needed that their true priorities and lack of commitment to the relationship are starkly revealed. The impact of this behavior on the person who is let down can be profound. It breeds a sense of betrayal and disillusionment, chipping away at the trust and reliability one thought was foundational to the relationship. It raises questions about the very nature of the bond, and often leads to a reassessment of the individual's role and value in one's life. Understanding this pattern is essential in recognizing the nature of the relationship and the other person's true intentions. It requires acknowledging that consistent support, both in times of joy and in times of adversity, is a cornerstone of any meaningful relationship. The realization that someone is absent during your critical moments serves as a critical litmus test, helping to distinguish between those who are genuinely invested in your well-being and those who are in the relationship merely for their gain. Number 9 on the list is the lack of reciprocity. Imagine a seesaw where one side is laden with the weight of efforts, sacrifices, and commitments, while the other side is feather-light, devoid of equivalent contributions. This image aptly represents a relationship lacking reciprocity. In such connections, you find yourself consistently investing time, energy, and emotions, striving to nurture and sustain the bond. Conversely, the other person's contributions are minimal, often tokenistic, or entirely absent. This disparity in effort can manifest in various ways. It might be you always initiating communication and making plans while their responses are lukewarm or non-committal. It could be your continuous support and understanding, without receiving the same level of empathy or assistance when you need it. Even in sharing personal experiences and vulnerabilities, you might find yourself open and forthcoming, whereas they remain guarded or disinterested. The reasons behind this lack of reciprocity are rooted in a self-centric approach to relationships. For the user, the relationship is a convenience, a resource to be tapped into as needed without the intention of a meaningful exchange. Their involvement is calculated and contingent on what benefits them, disregarding the needs and feelings of the other person. This approach is contrary to the essence of healthy relationships, which thrive on mutual give and take, shared experiences, and a balanced investment of emotional labor. Recognizing the lack of reciprocity requires a mindful observation of the relationship's dynamics. It involves asking whether the efforts to sustain and grow the connection are mutually shared or disproportionately shouldered by you. It calls for an honest assessment of whether the relationship feels enriching or draining, equal or skewed. Number 10 on the list is gossip and breach of trust. This behavior can be likened to a double-edged sword. On one edge, the act of gossiping about others creates a false sense of camaraderie and trust. It can appear as if they are confiding in you, drawing you into a seemingly exclusive circle of trust. However, the other edge of the sword is far more sinister. It involves the betrayal of your trust, where the intimate or sensitive information you shared in confidence becomes fodder for their gossip with others. This betrayal is not just a violation of trust. It is a strategic move to erode your sense of security and privacy within the relationship. This conduct reveals a calculated disregard for the sanctity of personal information and a blatant disrespect for the boundaries of confidentiality. The user leverages gossip as a tool for social maneuvering, often positioning themselves as a nexus of information. By disseminating and twisting information, they seek to manipulate perceptions, create alliances, or even sow discord, all for their benefit. This behavior demonstrates a utilitarian approach to relationships, where people are seen as means to an end, and confidential information is viewed as currency to be traded. The impact of such actions on the victim is multifaceted. It fosters an environment of mistrust and insecurity, undermining the very foundation of what could have been a supportive and trustworthy relationship. It can lead to social and emotional repercussions, as the misuse of personal information can damage reputations, relationships, and self-esteem. Identifying this pattern of behavior is crucial for safeguarding oneself against such relational predators. It involves being vigilant about how they speak of others in their absence, and being cautious about the information shared with them. Observing their respect for confidentiality and their propensity to engage in gossip can provide valuable insights into their character and intentions. Recognizing and addressing this pattern is fundamental to maintaining one's dignity and ensuring that personal boundaries are respected in all relationships. Number 11 on the list is selective availability. In this context, selective availability paints a picture of a one-sided relationship, resembling a phone line where only one party is always on call. In this dynamic, you are perpetually ready to lend an ear, extend a hand, or offer support. Your calendar, emotions, and resources are open books, readily accessible to them. Contrastingly, the other person's availability is as rare as a comet in the night sky, occasional, unpredictable, and always on their terms. This discrepancy in availability is not merely due to busy schedules or conflicting priorities. It is a deliberate choice, a strategic stance adopted by the user. Their unavailability serves a dual purpose. It maintains a convenient distance for them, and it places them in a position of control. By limiting their availability, they create a dynamic where you are left wanting more, often feeling grateful for whatever time or attention they deign to offer. In such relationships, your efforts to connect or engage are frequently met with excuses, delays, or outright neglect. Your texts may go unanswered, your calls unreturned, and your needs unacknowledged. When they do engage, it often aligns with their needs or agenda, turning the relationship into a one-way street. where your role becomes that of a convenience rather than a valued partner. The emotional toll of this pattern can be significant, breeding feelings of inadequacy as you question the value of your contributions and your worth in the eyes of the other person. It creates an undercurrent of frustration and resentment, born out of the realization that your efforts and availability are not reciprocated. Recognizing the pattern of selective availability is crucial. It involves stepping back and objectively assessing the balance of effort and availability in the relationship. It calls for an understanding that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, effort, and presence. Number 12 on the list is making you feel guilty. This involves a scenario where guilt becomes a puppeteer string, tugging at your conscience and leading you down a path you might not willingly choose. The person using you knows how to pull these strings adeptly, tapping into your sense of responsibility, empathy, or fairness. They might frame requests in a way that refusal would make you seem uncaring or selfish. Alternatively, they might remind you of past favors or incidents, suggesting an unspoken debt that you are now obligated to repay. This tactic of inducing guilt is often subtle and insidious. It starts with small favors or concessions, gradually escalating to more significant demands. Over time, your boundaries are eroded, and your capacity to refuse diminishes, leaving you feeling trapped in a cycle of guilt and compliance. The other person's needs and wants take center stage, while your own are sidelined or entirely dismissed. The effectiveness of this tactic lies in its ability to tap into a fundamental aspect of human nature, desire to be seen as good, helpful, and caring. By making you feel guilty, the user distorts these virtues, turning them into levers of control. You find yourself doing things not out of genuine desire or mutual respect, but out of a sense of imposed obligation, often feeling resentful or drained. Recognizing when someone is using guilt to manipulate you is crucial for maintaining the integrity of your personal boundaries and emotional well-being. It involves being mindful of the emotional undercurrents in your interactions, distinguishing between genuine requests for help and attempts to exploit your goodwill. It also requires the courage to question the motivations behind the requests, and to assert your right to say no without feeling guilty. Identifying and addressing this manipulative tactic is essential for fostering healthier relationships, based on mutual respect, genuine care, and free choice, rather than obligation and guilt. Number 13 on the list is lack of personal interest. This involves a conversation that feels like a one-way street, where the other person dominates the dialogue with their stories and experiences, while showing disinterest or impatience when the focus shifts to you. This behavior is a deliberate indication of their priorities and intentions, establishing a dynamic where their needs and life take precedence. The impact of such interactions can be disheartening, leading to feelings of insignificance and frustration, as your fundamental need for recognition and understanding goes unmet. Over time, this imbalance can erode the foundation of the relationship, leaving you feeling more like an accessory to their life than an equal partner. Recognizing this lack of personal interest is crucial. It involves being aware of the dynamics of your interactions, and acknowledging the emotional impact these one-sided conversations have on you. It calls for an evaluation of whether the relationship is mutually enriching or draining. Identifying this imbalance paves the way for seeking more reciprocal and fulfilling relationships, where your stories and experiences are valued and respected as much as theirs. Number 14 on the list is superficial closeness. This is likened to the shimmering surface of a lake that reflects the image of depth and substance, but lacks true profundity upon closer inspection. In such interactions, the person may mimic the behaviors of a close friend or committed partner, engaging in frequent communication, sharing laughs, and seemingly intimate conversations. However, this semblance of closeness never transcends into the realm of true depth. This lack of genuine commitment manifests in various ways, such as being absent during moments of struggle or vulnerability, breaking plans casually, and seldom keeping promises. The motive behind this behavior is often to maintain a circle of contacts that can be called upon when needed, without investing in the emotional labor that true relationships require. It's a form of emotional hedging, reaping the benefits of closeness without the risk of real attachment or responsibility. Recognizing superficial closeness is crucial for understanding the dynamics at play in a relationship. It involves observing patterns of interaction and questioning whether the perceived intimacy is matched by actions of genuine commitment and shared vulnerability. It's about discerning whether the relationship is balanced in terms of emotional investment or skewed towards serving their needs. Identifying this pattern allows one to seek and nurture relationships rooted in authenticity, reciprocity, and true emotional depth. Number 15 on the list is the persistent lack of respect. This behavior goes beyond occasional lapses in judgment or slips of the tongue. Instead, it is a continuous thread woven into the fabric of the relationship. Manifesting in various forms, it can include belittling comments, dismissive attitudes, or blatant disregard for your feelings and boundaries. This persistent lack of respect can create a toxic dynamic, where every attempt at conversation or connection becomes fraught with thorns of contempt and disregard. The person exhibiting this behavior may use it, whether consciously or unconsciously, as a tool to assert dominance or control in the relationship, rather than resolving disagreements with understanding and empathy. Conflicts become battlefields with no regard for emotional casualties. The consistent disrespect deeply undermines the foundation of the relationship, disrupting the normal ebb and flow of relationship dynamics. Recognizing and understanding this pattern of persistent disrespect is vital. It involves looking beyond isolated incidents to see the broader pattern of behavior, and realizing that respect is present not just in grand gestures, but also in daily interactions, small acknowledgments, and the way disagreements are handled. In conclusion, a persistent lack of respect in a relationship is a significant indicator that the person views you not as an equal partner, but as a means to an end. This lack of regard for your feelings and dignity reveals a relationship that is fundamentally unbalanced and unhealthy. Identifying this trait is crucial for anyone who values their self-respect and seeks relationships built on a foundation of mutual respect and equality.